She expected a warm family reunion, but by Christmas morning, everyone was gone. What had driven the wedge between them all? I am a 33-year-old man living overseas with my wife and daughter. A decade abroad means few visits home, but last Christmas, we decided to make the trip so that my family could meet our newborn daughter. My immediate family includes my parents, my older sister, who is 45, and her kids. The key player here is my 26-year-old nephew, Greg. Greg's story is tumultuous. He had been with Danny, who is also 26, since high school. They share a 5-year-old son and were engaged until Greg left her to date a coworker. According to him, Danny was manipulative and controlling. She did admit to this and apologized, but the split was messy. We made a conscious decision to stay out of it. Upon arriving, Greg was living at my parents' place, as my dad was in the midst of renovating the home Greg had purchased with his new partner. We met this new partner, and all appeared amicable, with no apparent problems. Yet, 2 days before Christmas, we still hadn't met Greg's son. Every inquiry we made was met with Greg's excuses, claims of work obligations, or Danny allegedly refusing to bring the child over. Since my wife was once friends with Danny, she reached out directly. Danny, to her apparent surprise, said she'd love to meet us. She insisted she hadn't been asked before. Without further delay, we set up a coffee meeting with Danny and our nephew's son for Christmas Eve. However, my dad offhandedly mentioned this plan to my sister. Before we knew it, Greg was being informed, provoked into believing our actions were disrespectful. Greg arrived home early from work, just as Danny was pulling into our parents' driveway. His reaction was intense, telling Danny she couldn't enter and raging that we'd gone behind his back. The scene quickly grew chaotic, as Greg hurled accusations about our supposed betrayal. We calmly asserted that Danny had never wronged us and that we'd resorted to contacting her because of Greg's evasions about his son. Yet, Greg remained firm in his stance, demanding we cancel. My wife, now in tears, and my parents shouting at Greg, reached a breaking point. I conceded to his demands, declaring the ordeal wasn't worth the commotion. Danny left heartbroken, and my wife retreated upstairs, seeking solitude. Still, Greg wouldn't stop berating us for our perceived treachery. The ordeal continued unabated. And then I snapped. Lashing out, I labeled him an entitled little brat who had single-handedly ruined our Christmas over a mere cup of coffee. Instead of calming the storm, this nearly prompted a physical altercation until my parents ejected him from the house. In my anger, I called Danny, defiantly announcing that we'd meet her regardless of Greg's opinions. Over coffee, we exchanged gifts and unearthed more truths. Danny explained that Greg wasn't upholding his child support responsibilities, nor spending weekends with his child, citing dubious illnesses. Her hunch was that Greg's hostility stemmed from a fear that such details might emerge. Our return found Greg mid-move my parents were helping him pack. Apparently, Greg returned while we were away, picking another fight. My dad told him to move into his new house with his coworker, ceasing all aid on the renovations. Before Greg departed, I urged him to reconsider ending things with his family on such a sour note. We shook hands, agreeing to leave the past behind. My wife's attempt at reconciliation was rebuffed. In response, I declared our ties severed. Christmas morning was bleak. None from my sister's side visited, despite living mere minutes away. Even the more frequent visitors among her younger kids stayed away. They claimed too much revelry kept them bedridden, but when I proposed visiting them, the constraint was clear. We weren't welcome past 30 minutes to avoid Greg's displeasure. Unsurprisingly, we stayed put. The subsequent call from Greg to my dad, questioning the lack of a festive greeting, ended abruptly. My dad pointed out the obvious and hung up. A swift call from my sister followed, asserting we owed Greg an apology due to her misplaced sympathy for him. I unleashed my frustration, holding her accountable for the rift and for ignoring our daughter during our visit. Her retort was vicious, calling me spoiled and expressing eager anticipation for my departure.
That marked the end of our interactions for the trip. The aftermath was severe. My sister barred her kids from visiting my parents, extending the fallout beyond immediate family ties. Meanwhile, Greg propositioned Danny, suggesting increased child support and time if she severed her ties with my parents. Danny resolutely refused, emphasizing her son's right to forge bonds with his grandparents. My family is now fractured. My parents find solace only in Danny's visits, excluded from my sister's side due to the ongoing feud. During this rift, my mother has undergone surgeries without acknowledgement from them. Yet, my parents have found a silver lining, inviting Danny and her child to visit us abroad. The little one, thrilled at the prospect of traveling and spending time with his cousin. Meanwhile, Greg is threatening legal action to thwart the trip since, by United Kingdom law, parental consent is required for international travel post-separation. The catalyst, a mere coffee shared with my nephew's ex, escalated into a tear through our family tapestry. Was it worth sticking to my principles, or should I have bowed to family pressures? And now, the community weighs in. Can you believe this response?
One commenter plainly stated, "You are not the jerk."
Your nephew is entitled and threw a fit because he knew his ex would reveal his failures as a father. Some words are going to sting.
Another mentioned, "Your sister never matured, just aged."
She drags those kids into disputes that don't concern them. And wow, Greg's character reflects her support my child no matter what, even if he is being difficult. One commenter said exactly what everyone was thinking.
They summed it up with, "Your nephew is definitely your sister's kid.
Both are entitled and care only for themselves.
You are not the jerk."
Family divides are never easy. If stories like this keep you up at night, the subscribe button is right there. And if you want more, I just covered the story about refusing a kidney donation to a stepdad who raised me. Find it linked in the description.